When reading A Song of Ice and Fire, it's very blatant that the Starks of Winterfell are the protagonists of the series due to their reputable honor that they carry around with them for better or for worse. We are able to see this from the points of view of Arya, Ned, Catelyn, Sansa, Bran, and even Jon. We see them face dilemmas that they resolve in their heads with integrity and honesty while keeping their thoughts close to their chest, which results in many players in King's Landing to give them no sense of respect for their ability to play the Game of Thrones, something that is not very important to the Starks, especially Ned. We rarely, outside of Northmen, see characters actually acknowledge the Starks' integrity and dignity with no hint of insincerity and genuine appreciation for it. There are a few characters here and there who do come up, and I'd like to talk about one of my favorite characters who happens to acknowledge these genuine traits of the Starks. Sir Robar Royce is the second son of Bronze Jan Royce from the Vale. Their house resides in the castle of Runestone, which sits on the coast. Now, he is a second son, meaning there is opportunity for him somewhere, but he will not inherit Runestone, as that honor belongs to his older brother, Sir Andar. And we see at the beginning of A Game of Thrones, his younger brother Waymar is slain by the others beyond the wall, presumably unbeknownst to any of his family. Anyway, we see Sir Robar accompany his father, Bronze Jan, and his brother to the Hand's tourney. We actually see Sir Robar perform very well in the tourney, and this could be George letting us know early on that Sir Robar is an excellent knight and does have a substantial future ahead of him, as he defeats Sir Lothar Brune, not Sir, in the joust, and it takes the Knight of Flowers himself to defeat Robar. So what is it about Sir Robar that I find so interesting? Well, for one, he's just a kid. And being a kid does not mean that you are below a certain age, but rather at a certain level of maturity. For example, Sir Robar is around 20 to 21 years old by the time A Clash of Kings starts. And in contrast, King Robb Stark is only 15 years old, but is twice the man that Sir Robar is. Robar is naive, nonchalant about things when it comes to war. In the Catelyn 2 of A Clash of Kings, we see Catelyn arrive at Renly's camp only to discover the senseless activities going around the war camp. We see there's a melee taking place, and Catelyn is beside herself. Mathis Rowan observes this and comments on their collective thoughts. "They are all so young," he said. It was true. The Knight of Flowers could not have reached his second name day when Robert slew Prince Rhaegar on the Trident. Few of the others were very much older. They had all been babes during the sack of King's Landing, and no more than boys when Balon Greyjoy raised his Iron Islands in rebellion. They are still unblooded, Catelyn thought, as she watched Lord Bryce goad Sir Robar into juggling a brace of daggers. It is all a game to them still, a tourney writ large, and all they see is the chance for glory and honor and spoils. So where does this kid fall into the group that is respectful of the weight of the Starks and their integrity and sense of honor and honesty? Well, the first glimpse we see of this is in Eddard 11 of A Game of Thrones, when the common people of the Riverlands are petitioning to Ned about the ongoing destruction of their homes and the farms by the hands of Sir Gregor and by the orders of Tywin Lannister. When dealing with this complex situation and the politics involved, Ned decides that Robert must be told while he is on his hunt. Ned sees Sir Robar in the crowd of petitioners and summons him to ride out into the Kingswood and inform his father and the king of what presided in the throne room. Sir Robar obliges and is off on his way. From this, we've gathered that Ned trusts Sir Robar enough to entrust him with a task as big as delivering a message to the king while he's on his personal hunt and not wanting to be bothered by anyone. This is Robert, after all. We've also gathered that Sir Robar has enough respect for Ned to bow and obey his command without questions. This is a big task, considering that the Lannisters are involved and the whole realm is at stake. Yes, Ned is the hand of the king, but the magnitude of the task is a key indicator here. Robar would only agree to this because his father's with the king and because the commands are coming from someone who Sir Robar has a lot of admiration for. Now, going back to A Clash of Kings, we see that Renly Baratheon has styled himself King of Westeros with all the power of Highgarden and the Reach, as well as many Stormlanders, to mass a host of just under 100,000 men. Renly being able to attain such a large host is a true testament to his character, but also how the noble houses of Westeros were not in favor of having Stannis on the throne, nor the Lannisters, who were presumably the rightful heirs of the throne at the time. We see that King Renly has appointed his own version of the Kingsguard, but with his own twist by styling them the Rainbow Guard. Lois Bryce Cairn the orange, Sir Gyard Morrigan the green, Sir Parman Crane the purple, Sir Robar Royce the red, Sir Emmon Kai the yellow, Brienne of Tarth the blue, and Lord Commander Loras Tyrell. The Rainbow Guard honestly deserve their own video just by how cool and niche they are, as we only see them for a few chapters, but they still affect the characters in the most recent books. When looking at how Renly chose his Rainbow Guard, it's pretty obvious as he chose from personal bias. If we want to delve real deep, we can see that 3 houses are from the Stormlands, Cairn, Morgan, and Tarth, and 3 houses are from the Reach, House Crane, Kai, and Tyrell. I think that maybe that Renly and Loras had a discussion and agreed to choose 3 knights from each of their own realms as to be fair to one another. So that leaves one spot left. I would assume they decided on a neutral location or person just so one side did not have the advantage over the other. Obviously, Sir Robar was chosen, but what led him to be in the company of Renly and Loras? Well, in the hands tourney, we see that Sir Robar has already defeated Lothar Brun in the joust, and he is facing the formidable Knight of Flowers, who is known for being a remarkable jouster and is already a prodigy. So Robar, coming off an impressive lance, is easily unhorsed by Loras and taking to be treated for his bruises. Maybe Loras was impressed by Robar's skills, or maybe it was just a coincidence. That is something that we are not supposed to know, as George loves keeping things very vague. As for Renly, he is in the woods with Robert as Sir Robar is delivering Ned's message about the declaration regarding the Lannisters, Sir Gregor, and the Riverlands. Again, maybe Renly saw that Robar was pro-Baratheon rather than Lannister from this interaction, and remembered when choosing him for his spot for his Kingsguard. Again, all of this is said with a tinfoil hat, and honestly, just my imagination to come up with some reasoning as to why a fictional character written 25 years ago did something that was very minor to the plot. I've read these books twice now, and I find myself wanting to reread them all again every time I finish with Dance with Dragons. As for Robar, we know why he chose to become part of Renly's guard. In Catelyn 3 of A Clash of Kings, we see Sir Robar escorting Catelyn to the Sept so she can pray. This being a time of despair and turmoil for her, she begins to make small talk with Sir Robar to preoccupy herself. And anyway, they kind of talk about, Sir Robar being one of Bronzeon's sons, and then she notes that Renly gave Sir Robar a rainbow cloak with a suit of blood red armor and named him one of his 7. And then she talks about how he's far from the Vale, and he says she's far from Winterfell. She kind of explains she knows what brought her here. Why are you here? This is not even your battle. And he says, well, this is my battle when I made Renly my king. She notes that the Royces are bannermen to House Arryn. And then he goes, yes, well, my lord father does owe Lysa fealty, as is his heir. A second son must find glory where he can. Sir Robar shrugged. A man grows wary of tourneys. And Catelyn just says, he could only be more than 21, but her king, Robb, who was 15 at the time, has more wisdom at 15 than his youth has ever learned. During this exchange, we see how young and naive Sir Robar is, and how this all plays into him being a kid. He joins Renly's cause without thinking about how his own house is vassal to the Arryns, who have not yet taken sides in the war, but if they were to, it would be for King Robb of House Stark, king in the north, and in due time, king of the Trident. He doesn't join Renly's cause because he aligns himself with the policies that he plans to implement, or the fact that he has a personal vendetta against the Lannisters. He joins because fuck it. This is what separates him from Robb and classifies him as a kid. His actions are not defined by purpose, but rather than desire. So why is he one of my favorite characters? Well, at the beginning of this video, I mentioned how the Starks are notoriously honorable, but throughout the series, we rarely see individuals outside of Northmen genuinely appreciate it and acknowledge their honor. One of the few characters to do this is in fact Sir Robar Royce. We've seen it when Ned summons him to deliver a message, and we see it in Sir Robar's final hour. In the night before the battle between Stannis and Renly is supposed to take place, we see Renly planning the battle with lords and knights in his tent. As he is donning his armor, a mysterious shadow appears, evades Robar, Aemon, and Brienne, and slays King Renly in his tent, where he dies in Brienne's arms. Sir Robar and Sir Aemon rush in, only to find their king dead, and Brienne's body looming over him, coated in blood. Robar and Aemon quickly assume this was Brienne's work, but Aemon unsheathes his sword and begins to attack, while Robar hangs back, still in shock. Catelyn, desperate to clear their names, seizes Robar, hoping to rationalize with him about what had actually happened. She states that anyone can see that Brienne had loved Renly, and it was some dark magic sent by Stannis, which is not fully convinced the frantic Robar. Then we get this passage. She glanced back, saw the second guardsman fall, his blade dropping from limp fingers. Outside there was shouting. More angry men would be bursting in on them at any instant, she knew. She is innocent, Robar. You have my word on my husband's grave and my honor as a Stark. That resolved him. I will hold them, Sir Robar said. Get her away. He turned and went out. This right here is why Sir Robar Royce is one of my favorite characters. He is presented with the most outlandish situation as being begged to believe it. Seriously, a shadow killing Renly? Not an envoy from a rival king, nor the woman holding his dead body? But he is a kid and too frantic to act and listen to Catelyn, whom he just sat vigil with. He had admiration for Ned Stark, who entrusted him with an important message from the king. The culmination of all these factors allows Sir Robar Royce to be persuaded by the words, on my husband's grave and my honor as a Stark. He respects the Stark's honor and history, and in this moment he became a man by acting not out of desire, but out of purpose.